15 years, blowing the doors off the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.
Network Studios in the hub of the universe, the entertainment capital of New England, Boston, Massachusetts, USA. This is Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Did you like the new sound effect?
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number, I'm not sure which one it is. I didn't look it up. And it is October 11th, 2021. Part of Screen Screams. We're sorry we're a day late this week. Sunday was crazy for us.
Yes, it was.
We had all kinds of stuff going on this weekend, so it was kind of nuts. But, that's how it goes. What is this week's Subject Cinema number? I should have looked that up. Anyway, welcome to the show. Welcome to Screen Screams, or Silent Screams, actually. This is Subject Cinema number 660. So
yes,
there you
it
go.
is. Wow.
Okay, so how was your week?
Fine. Pretty good.
That's
Can't
good.
really complain too much about it.
Okay. And of course, all month long for our not for our December. What is it with me? Last year it was the year. Last week it was the year. This week it's the month. And for our October shows, of course, this is Halloween.
Yes.
And so we are doing, as I said, silent screams. We're doing all silent films, horror films this year. If you missed our take on last week's film, which was
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Thank you. Don't forget to check last week's show. Today, going back to 1925, and the movie that kicked off Universal's Monsters, although they would later on remake this in as a talkie. 1925's The Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney.
It's weird. People don't tend to think of the Phantom as one of the Universal monsters. If you talk to people and you ask them, like, who are the Universal monsters to you, people usually think of, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, the Wolfman.
Well, yeah, those are the ones that came later in the 30s, 40s, and even 50s.
I mean, occasionally you'll get like a far-thinking person that will think of the Bride of Frankenstein, or one of my personal favorites, the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Love me the Gill Man.
The Creature was the last of the ones to be introduced, was he not? He was.
I think so. Yeah.
Late, early 1950, 51, somewhere in there, right?
But this version of the Phantom of the Opera doesn't get as much love when it comes to being a Universal monster, I don't think. Although it's ironic because he's the one, this iteration, I think, is the one that most people think of when you think of a movie version of the Phantom of the Opera.
That's because the movie version of the Andrew Lloyd Webber play bombed.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say. Considering the fact that this has been filmed multiple times with versions that we can actually talk about later on once we get through the actual meat of this, which is this version here.
Right.
From 1925, directed by, give me a moment to cue it up because my phone decided to be a pain in the butt. Directed
by Robert Julian with uncredited help from Lon Chaney, Ernst Lamel, and Edward Sedgwick.
Based on the 1910, people think it's much older as well. I think people think it's an older novel than it is.
It's because it was set in the 1800s.
Right. Gaston Leroux wrote Le Fantôme de l'Opéra in 1910. And sorry if my French is terrible. I took Spanish in school, so my French sucks. Ironically, my Spanish sucks. Donde está la biblioteca? That's about it.
My French is limited to the opening of the chorus of Lady Marmalade. So I don't know much.
No, we don't need to do that.
No, I know.
We don't need to do that, especially with this movie.
And Pepe Le Pew faux French.
Yeah, well,
so I really don't know much about the French language. I'm sorry. I'd love to learn it.
The film begins at the Paris Opera House at the beginning of the season of the Paris Opera House in the 1800s, 1880s, were around there, with the premiere of a new season of the opera, and they're going to be doing Faust, which is
how appropriate.
Which is such a chirpy, happy, upbeat, fun story.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Two of the people that are there seeing the opera are the Comte Philippe de Chagny and his brother, the Vicomte Raoul de Chagny, and they are there to see. Well, they're there to see the opera, but Raoul's there also for another reason, and that's to hear his lady love Christine sing. Christine was part of the chorus, but now she's an understudy to the prima donna. This is back when the term prima donna was not a bad thing. That came later.
Yeah, at the time, I think still in the opera, prima donna means lead.
It's the leading
lead
lady. Yeah,
right.
basically, it's the leading lady. I mean,
I'll be honest, I know jack squat about opera. I really don't. I know rock opera, which isn't the same thing,
No.
but I know. I've never been to an opera. We had a couple we wanted to see that were on the Fathom Events thing, but of course we can't do that now because Showcase left in the middle of the night.
yeah, pretty much.
And it was
I've actually.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, can I clear my throat? I've actually seen one opera when I was in college. In my Spanish class, we saw Carmen. So that was interesting.
I saw MTV's version of Carmen with the Bryans. Orser and Boitano.
Oh.
That they did with Katharina Witt right after the 1988 Olympics, but I didn't see the whole thing.
Like Carmen on Ice or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. It was very weird because Carmen is obviously set in Spain because it's about bullfighting and stuff like that, and it was in French, so I'm confused. Anyway, so Christine is the understudy to Carlotta, who is the prima donna, and she has her mother is a I didn't realize that Karens had been around this long. And I don't know what the French for Karen would be, so sorry.
Karina?
Maybe.
I don't know.
But as it turns out that stage mothers are not a new thing because Mrs. Carlotta, for lack of a better term, Carlotta's mother is this very demanding, very Captain Spaulding type of woman, even though we can't hear her speak because it's a silent film. You can tell her voice is like the type of voice that would probably shatter glass and make dogs just have their head explode.
And of course, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because right at the beginning of the movie, the Opera House is sold to new owners.
Yes, the Opera House is sold to new owners, and we're very obviously seeing as the audience that something here is a little bit hinky because the people who are selling the Opera House to the new owners
are doing the whole wink, wink, nudge, nudge,
Yeah.
know what I mean routine to each other.
And after everything's been signed, sealed, and stamped and notarized and all that other legal hokey pokey, the people who owned the Opera House are like, oh, by the way, you have a ghost, bye-bye. And they book it out the door. Now, the new owners of the Opera House are all like, oh, a ghost? Ha, ha, ha. I don't believe in ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts? I don't believe in ghosts. Ha, ha, ha. We're not children, blah, 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 blah. Okay, who here thinks that's going to end well for anybody? Show of hands. Yeah, me neither. So as it turns out, apparently everybody else and their dog knows about the ghost in the Opera House, who is also referred to as a phantom, although I do think a ghost and a phantom are two different things. But I read too much supernatural fiction for my own damn good. So anyway.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that the supernatural fandom universe has a lot of different definitions of the typical stuff, so it wouldn't really apply here, I don't think.
We're not even... I wasn't even talking supernatural, the capital S. I was talking small
Okay,
S.
well, when you mention supernatural, I naturally think Sam and Dean. Okay, anyway.
Anywho, I mean, it's very well known by the people who work in the Opera House that there is some spooky type crap going on, and that the opera box, the like box seat, for lack of, I don't know how else to word it. I guess
That's what they're called. Yeah, they're the boxes.
That sounds so crass when you talk about, opera's supposed to be all, nose up in the air.
Well, they call them opera boxes when they're in opera houses.
Yeah.
So.
I think box seats, I'm thinking like you're at the Bruins game or something. Yeah, woo.
Well, that's the standard. That's the standard variation for the hoi polloi.
Right. But apparently there's a ghost in Box 5, this phantom that haunts this building. So the two men, now this is all going on while this premiere of Faust is happening. And there's ballet dancers in it, which is completely, I was like, are we watching an opera or are we watching a ballet?
Curtain opens and there's all these ballet dancers and she's like, why are there ballet dancers in an opera? I'm like, I don't know.
You got some ballet in my opera. You got some opera in my ballet. Tastes great together. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just strange. Of course, we can't hear any frickin' things because, hello, silent movie. So the two gentlemen go to the box where there's supposed to be this phantom figure, and they open the door, and there's someone sitting there. There's this figure in a long cape, high collar cape, and all this stuff like that. And they just walk out, and they walk back in, and the figure is gone. So obviously, it's very obvious what's happening. That the Paris Opera House is being haunted by Doctor Strange. No, that's not it. We know that. It's Batman. But
it's not Batman. The collar was too high.
Right.
I'm the one that said it was Doctor Strange.
Yes, you did. Anyway. So now, as we mentioned, there's the love story between Christine and Bob Boxbody. Raoul, I'm sorry. Yes,
actually, is it Bob Boxbody? He's more like
he's more Captain Bland.
No, he's more like Bob Blandpants, like what's his name, Harker, in the original Dracula.
When we first see him, we're like, when we first saw him in the scene where he's like watching the opera, you're like, which one's Raoul? And I'm like, the one that's dressed like he's in a marching band.
Oh yeah, the band major. Okay,
yeah,
I got him.
Yeah.
I still couldn't find him after he took it off because he's so bland.
Yeah, he's such an exciting character. So anyway, so he's all like, well, now you've sung at the height of the opera and stuff like that, and so you can trash your whole career and come marry me. And Christine is all like, no. She's all like, no.
I shall never give up the opera. Never, never.
Yeah. She's all like, I don't want, my career is important to me, and it's I'm like, you can't do both, I don't think you have to be like, it's not like you're joining the convent or whatever.
Could you, though, back in the you said this was set in 1880s.
80, yeah.
Back then, women did not work if they were married.
No.
It just wasn't done. And I don't know how it was in France. In America, it was definitely, if you're married, you're a housewife.
Right.
So...
if you could afford it. I mean...
Well, no. I mean, even if you couldn't afford it, that's just how it went. I mean, that's stupid by today's standards. We all know that. But, there weren't such... Why do you think the whole phrase two-income household didn't come about until the late 60s?
Right, I know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because women didn't get paid for doing housework, which is probably much harder than what men were doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And especially if there were kids involved. Kids.
That's my one for the show.
Yep.
As we've mentioned, there's this other singer. I don't even think we saw Carlotta at any point. We saw her mother enough that I was like, oh, for crying out loud, this bitch again? But
no, we did see her on stage.
Oh, we saw her once. That's right, yeah. Oh, how could I forget that?
Didn't say, yeah.
Carlotta's mother receives a letter from the Phantom saying that Christine is going to be singing the lead in Faust, or else. That basically Carlotta is going to get, that she should fall ill in quotation marks, or else, basically. Mm-hmm. Christine winds up, I don't know how else to word it, so I'm going to say it this way, being groomed by this mysterious voice that she hears, this beautiful voice that she refers to as an angel or the spirit of music. And this voice tells her how wonderful she can be as an artist and all this stuff like that. And you don't really need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that the same person who's saying all these things to Christine and building her up to a point, and I'll get to what I mean about that in a minute, is the same person that's sending out these vague, and then later on less vague threats to Carlotta and to the opera house itself, because the opera house owners are also receiving letters saying, Christine is going to be the star or your place is going to suffer for it. And they ignore that, and there are consequences.
Well, they kind of, because if they don't ignore that, they're going to have to deal with Karen from hell there. Yeah. Which is a good reason to want to ignore it the way she was.
They wind up having, they really are kind of between a rock and a hard place, between having to deal with this mysterious phantom person that's, with all their threats, and Les Bull Moose, that is Carlotta's mother, and her shrieking and carrying on. This all culminates in Christine eventually going with the Phantom. I mean, you could argue it might be kidnapping, but it's not like she's kicking and screaming or whatever. She does go to him kind of willingly.
Well, yeah, because he has her completely snowed.
Yeah.
Thinking he's the voice of an angel.
Yeah, he has. The thing is, the problem is the voice of the angel doesn't necessarily mean the guy's going to look like an angel. Nature has trade-offs like that. And the fact that this mysterious figure, the Phantom, decides that, okay, you don't want to listen to me, and you want to do this, that, and the other thing, and Carlotta's going to be the lead in your little opera here. Okay, I'm going to deal with this my way. My way involves deciding that a very nasty...
And now, the end is near, and so I face the final
chandelier.
When the curtain opens up and there's Carlotta, and I'm sorry, what was the first thing out of my mouth that I didn't mean it to be? I mean, it just happened.
It wasn't flattering.
It wasn't flattering.
Not at all. What did you say?
I said, what a cow.
That's what you said.
I'm so sorry, and then I gave her my hand so she could slap it, because I knew that was mean. It just was my gut reaction. As you can tell, she is her mother's daughter.
Yeah, you can tell.
Oh my Lord!
That the part of the lead role is obviously supposed to be played by a young. Like the young virginal ingenue kind of a part.
Yeah, this
lady ain't.
Yeah, this lady looks like her. For those of you who understand our love for keeping up appearances, you'll get this reference. It's like Hyacinth doing the boyfriend, which is just stupid.
Right.
Anyway.
No, it absolutely is. It's like, okay, yeah, young virginal female lead. Okay. Uh-huh.
Well, it could have been Florence Foster Jenkins, so we don't have to worry about that either.
No.
That would have been a real disaster.
The Phantom voice, makes his displeasure known by very subtle means of dropping a big honking chandelier on the audience. Which everybody...
And then, of course, there's panic, and everybody's running, and people are falling, and people are tripping over them, and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, who knows how many people just got killed,
we see, again, I'm going to bring this up on the show now. They never showed any bodies. People were climbing out from underneath the chandelier.
Yes.
And people were tripping over people that had fainted.
True.
Clunk in the middle of the aisle.
Yes, and it's a silent movie, so people faint very big. That's the one thing.
It's the opening of Mystery Faint.
Yeah,
onto the fainting couch.
Nobody does. We've mentioned this last week. Nobody does anything small in a silent movie. You can't. It's just that's not the way things were done.
No, because you have to gesture and get your point across.
But when you look at the size of that chandelier, I mean, just logic dictates. And this was dropped on the crowd.
Yeah,
this was
it was dropped on the first few rows of the crowd and the back of the orchestra.
Yeah.
So
they probably lost a couple of drum players.
And maybe a fife and a...
Definitely lost the brass section because they're usually in the back. But I'm sorry, and also the fact that it is 1920 whatever, so you're not going to see them pulling blood dripping mangled bodies out from under the chandelier.
No, but you'd think they could show somebody that was. I mean, they never showed a dead body. Is what I'm saying.
No, they didn't.
We do not. Even the newspaper headline never said that there were fatalities.
No, they didn't. But
So-
okay, let's assume for a second.
I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt.
We're going to look on the bright side of life and assume that, yes, that was a Monty Python reference. We're going to assume that nobody got killed when this gigantic chandelier fell on people. We're going to assume that for a second. Assuming nobody got killed, you can agree with me at least that somebody got maimed.
Oh yeah, I didn't say that. I'm saying that I'm not saying that you're wrong about people getting killed. I'm saying they never made it specifically clear in the film whether anybody was killed or not.
No. Also, the simple fact that if
it's
something
likely.
Also, the simple fact that something with a whole bunch of points of fire on it, you think the whole place would have burned to the effing ground, but apparently not. So anyway, while all of this crap is going on,
wasn't it lit by electricity?
I don't remember.
I think
it
was. I think the chandelier was lit by electricity because they had electric things in the back. So
maybe
Paris was one of the first cities to electrify. So it was like,
that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. Although everybody at the end was running around with torches, maybe that's when I'm.
Well, that's because they were underground.
Yeah, yeah, and that was safe.
Yeah,
yeah. Having a whole bunch of pissed off people running around with flaming sticks—that's a great idea. Can't see anything going wrong with that.
Yeah.
So while all of this insanity is going on, Christine's all like, and she knows that this happened. That's the part that I'm like, I don't get it. She knows this chandelier fell. And probably knows it didn't fall by, an accident. But that's okay. Because now she's in the way back, and actually under the opera house, like 5 cellars under. I don't know how deep that is.
Well, by the time they got there.
Yeah.
Where she was.
Right.
Because that was part of the whole horse thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
They weren't 5 cellars underground by the time when she first came out.
No. So she meets her angel, the voice of music, blah, 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 who it turns out is this guy, Eric, who is wearing a mask that basically just shows that the top of it is a mask. Underneath the mask, she still can't see his mouth. There's like a hanging...
handkerchief or something.
Handkerchief, gauze. I don't know what you'd call it, but it hides his face. You can't see his face at all, but obviously his voice is still charming enough that she's not... she's scared, but she's still like, okay, I'll go with you. And he leads her down into the bowels of the building. And his whole thing is, the depths, the underlings, the whole, we're way the frig underground here. And
he does what now?
Leads her into the depths of the what?
And how does he do it? You said they went where?
To the bowels of under the building.
I forget it. Never mind. Go ahead.
I don't know.
I wasn't going to lead into it. Just go right ahead.
All right. I don't know where I'm going with that. Also, at one point, he's taking her down. He has her like sitting side saddle on a horse. That I'm like, how did he get a horse? And isn't that making a lot of... You know what? Never mind. I'm sorry. The horse would be making a crap ton of noise. All you'd hear is cloppy, cloppy, cloppy.
Yeah,
cloppy,
we said that too. But it's a silent film.
It is a silent film, but you think people in the film would be going, "What's that noise? It sounds like there's a horse around here."
And especially since they're underground, you'd think it would echo.
For real.
There'd be a massive echo throughout things.
For real. So he brings her to his lair. We'll go with lair.
I think of it as a stylish apartment prison.
He sleeps in a coffin. Look, I might be a little bit on the goth side, but there are a couple of places where I'm like, whoa, hey, back that truck up. His whole thing is, we'll be together and you'll be my love and blah, blah, blah. And I've loved you for so long and all this stuff like that. And the one thing that he's like, the only thing I ask of you is you don't touch my mask. Don't try and take off my mask.
That's all I ask of you.
Yeah. I'm like, you had one job. You had one job. I mean, of course, obviously, this whole situation is pretty effing weird. But Christine doesn't seem, I mean, she's a little bit freaked out, but he's still promising that he's going to make her the greatest singer ever. And my whole thing is he's basically being all like, I'm the one that made you. I'm the one that gave you your voice. I'm the one that did this, that, and the other. I'm like, excuse me? It's like, you did all this? Excuse me?
Well, I mean...
What? I want to hear the justification for this. Go ahead.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wasn't going to justify it. I'm
All
just
right.
saying that that's how they think back then.
That's how he thought.
Right. Mhm.
Right. Now, up to this point, obviously, we've had the whole chandelier incident. Raul is completely freaked out because Christine's all like, oh, I have my career to think about and all this stuff like that, and now she's gone. And he's trying to find out where the hell she is, and there's also this guy that's been following them around that we don't know we as the audience don't know who he is. We also find out later on. We won't say who he is. And so Christine is listening to Eric play the organ, because of course he's got an organ down here, wherever the hell we are. And I still think that's music. I don't know if that's music he wrote or somebody else wrote. It's called Don Juan Triumphant. And it's, he's playing it and he's all into his music and all this stuff like that. And she, creeps up behind him and does the one damn thing that he told her not to do. It's like, I'm sitting there. I mean, you know it's going to happen. Everybody's seen this scene because it's in every single horror movie compilation of, great horror movie scenes. It's always there because it's a great scene.
It is.
It's wonderfully shot.
Yeah, it is.
And she takes his mask off. And we, the audience, see his face before she sees it, which I think is really interesting.
Right.
And, of course, he looks
Horrifying.
pretty fugly. He's a very deformed person.
Yep.
And obviously, we as human beings are supposed to feel compassion for someone who has, a physical issue that's, making them uncomfortable about themselves and being uncomfortable in their own skin.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
people weren't that compassionate
No,
back then.
they weren't.
And when she sees his face, she promptly... We don't hear that either. Silent movie.
No, we just see it on her face.
Yeah. And everything goes to hell in a handbasket really, really quickly.
Yep.
With Raul trying to find Christine trying to get the hell out of there, the Phantom, whose name is Eric, as we find out,
Yeah.
determined to keep her no matter what. And also this mysterious guy slinking around. Like I said, we do find out who he is eventually and how this whole thing eventually gets resolved. Or doesn't, because we're not going to tell you.
Right. Lon Chaney as the Phantom. Mary Philbin as Christine Daae, I would think.
Yeah.
Norman Carey as Viscount Raoul de Chagny. Arthur Edmund Carew as Ledoux. Gibson Gowland as Simon... I say bucket. She says bouquet.
I said bouquet.
Bouquet. Well, it's probably bouquet if it's E.T.
There's no O in there.
Doesn't have to be. Well, there doesn't in French pronunciation. E.T. is usually eh. So, I think that's what I've...
No, I'm saying that if it was bouquet, it would be Bouquet.
Yeah, well, that's the English spelling
Never
of
mind.
bouquet.
Okay, forget it.
John St. Paulus, credited as John Sampoulis, as Count Philippe de Chagny. Snitz Edwards as Florine Papillon. I don't know who that was. And Virginia Pearson as Carlotta. And Pearson also played Carlotta's mother in the reshoot segments of the 1930s partial talkie version, which gave us a
we didn't
slightly
see.
better ending. There's an epilogue listed here on that we did not get to see.
Yeah.
It was not part of the original film, which we ordered from Amazon.
Yes.
So,
as we've mentioned, it's a silent, and most of it is in black and white. Not all of it. There's one section that is in color, obviously touched to be in color. For a very specific reason. And I don't usually go in for that kind of thing, but I think there it works exceedingly well.
well, at that time, they didn't have any other way to do that.
No, but I think the way they did that, it worked very well. And it's one of the best entrances, and it's one of the best costumes, I'll be honest, that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I really love
especially
it.
for 1925. I mean, you got to remember, we're talking about a movie that celebrates its 96th anniversary in November.
Oh, it's nuts.
It's crazy how
Is that-
how good the film, the costuming and stuff was.
Right. Well, also when you think about the fact that Lon Chaney Sr. was known as the man of 1,000 faces for a reason. And most of his makeup, in fact, I think all of the really, complex makeup stuff, he did himself. He came up with it. He would design it because he's the one wearing it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because, it's on his face, so he might as well be the person to, decide how it looks.
Right.
And what he went through to get the look of the Phantom, you read about it and you're just like, no, that's okay. No, I mean, talk about suffering for your art. I mean, crying out loud, it's ridiculous.
It's interesting. The film was not a big hit when it came out. Mordaunt Hall, the critic for the New York Times, gave the film a positive review as a spectacle, but felt that the story and acting could have been slightly improved. Time magazine praised the set, but thought the picture was, quote, only pretty good, close quote. And Variety wrote, quote, The Phantom of the Opera is not a bad film from a technical viewpoint, but revolving around the terrifying of all inmates in the Grand Opera House in Paris by a criminally insane mind behind a hideous face. The combination makes a Welsh rarebit look foolish as a sleep destroyer, close quote. Whatever that means.
Welsh rarebit is the kind of food that people, there's a lot of lore about it that it gives you bad dreams.
Right,
or
okay.
very vivid dreams when you eat it. So
today it's considered a classic.
Well,
Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars when he was reviewing it. Pop Matters, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Time Out, very positive. TV Guide, very positive. So it's interesting.
Well, when you look back at a lot of other films that now are considered classics. I mean, The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, a lot of those films, people
were not huge hits.
No,
and most of them in the 30s, too, ironically.
They didn't know what they had.
Yeah.
Which is, that's the way things go.
One thing I do want to say, this was the official cut from, I don't remember which company, that we watched on Amazon Prime. It's $2 to rent on Amazon Prime, by the way. There are several different cuts with several different endings that they shot that the studio didn't like. The one we saw, I was a bit upset because about a quarter of the way into the picture, for about 10 minutes, the print got absolutely abysmal.
It got very murky.
It was after, further along than that, because it was after the Phantom and Christine had gotten together. It was, I was very disappointed because I thought this was supposedly a restored version.
It was after the big reveal. And I think
it was
before,
when she woke up after she passed out.
Yeah, it was
first of numerous times in the film.
It was after the big reveal, and it was before the big masquerade ball. So it was in there.
It was, wasn't it? I think it was before the mask came off, because that's where she found the letter that went on the table, which said, I want to keep you here. Only thing you must never do is remove my mask or ask to see behind the mask. So there you go.
Yeah.
But it got really murky in places.
Yeah, but it didn't stay, so that's
No, but
something.
we're talking, there was a couple of points where it was Decasia murky. So,
it wasn't quite that bad.
If you order the Amazon one, be aware of that. It happens in that one scene, and next couple of scenes. But it does get better again.
Right.
I don't know what happened there.
No, I don't know. Well, we tried to watch it on YouTube, and I'm not slagging on the channel that was showing it.
No,
but
it's a public domain film, so you can put it up on YouTube. And
it was just too blurry. Neither of us could make anything out. And it was
and there
like,
were no
nope,
subtitles.
that's got to go. Yeah.
No, nothing. So, what did you think of this? You'd seen it before.
Yes, I had seen this
years ago.
I'd seen this a long time ago, and I've told this story before. I've been watching it, and my sister came in the room, and she's like, "Why doesn't anybody say anything?" I'm like, "It's a silent movie."
Of course, give her credit. She was only, 12 at the time?
12
She probably
or 13,
had no idea what was
something
going
like that.
on.
Yeah,
right.
That's when I was starting to get into film, as looking at, film as more than just something to go see at the cinema.
More as entertainment.
Yeah, and just getting a wider palette of things. I thought it was a beautiful story. I thought it was beautifully told. And it still is. It's just that there's things about it now that I look at as, I hate saying it this way, that I look at with adult eyes, and I'm like, wow, that's...
You look at it with a film lover's eye. How about that?
Yeah.
You don't have to be an adult.
No.
You can still be younger than an adult, and
yeah, you can still have a young heart, but there's there's moments that now, being an older person, that I look at and I'm like, wow, that's a lot sadder than I remember it. Or, good grief, are you really going to be like, well, you have to throw your career away and be my wife? And, I mean, I don't remember being very like, I know about that back in the day. I remember watching this and going, what?
And what did you say about the Phantom? About his dialogue? What did you say? It needs to be said.
Am I wrong?
I didn't say you were wrong. I said I didn't agree at first, and then after a couple of times, I'm like, yeah, you're totally right about that.
There is so much, and I realize that some people are going, you're putting...
modern day Morris on.
Right. But I'm sorry, there's so much of this, of his dialogue, his motivations, his actions, that are so much incel, nice guy behavior. It's all like, well, I'm doing this for you, so you will give yourself to me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And besides the fact that that is really not healthy, and the whole, we're not even talking about the various and sundry murders that get committed during this film. It's his whole, I'm entitled to you.
Right.
And it's like,
I made you, so now you have to give up to me.
Yeah, you have to surrender to me.
I agree. By the way,
it's like, what?
Before I forget, I want to bring this up, and because we had talked about it, going through the Wikipedia, the sewers part of this movie did not actually happen in this movie.
No.
That started with the 1940s version with Claude Rains. The original script and the original book, that water that I was saying is the sewer, it's not the sewer, it's the Seine. So it's the river flowing under the city, which they did not make clear.
They didn't make clear.
Because I'm always, a Phantom in the sewers of Paris, and I'm like, okay, that's sewer. He's in sewer water.
Yeah.
Ew, gross.
But you notice we also didn't see any rats. There weren't.
Yeah.
I remember
then the Claude Rains version from 1940, I think it is specifically said to be the sewers.
Right.
So.
Because that's the thing. I was sitting there thinking that when we were seeing this, I'm like, if this is supposed to be the sewers, this is the cleanest sewer system I've ever seen. And there's also the fact that there's just that one part where he's in the water, and you're like, oh.
And that's another thing that they did that they always do in Hollywood. He's drenched and he's wearing his tuxedo in the water to kill somebody, and then he comes back and he comes into the room with his cape on and he's completely dry.
Yep.
Okay, what?
Yep.
He was just outside soaking wet 3 seconds ago.
Yep. I mean, unless there's a whole, there's a time passage that we didn't see.
Or a huge blow dryer.
I don't think
or a bake oven.
I think it's a terrific film. I think that it's very different from Caligari, because
Caligari is a mind trip.
Yeah, Caligari has that fever dream quality to it, and then you get to the end of it, and you're like, "Wait,
that's why."
What?
Yeah,
yeah.
With this one was straightforward.
It's very A, B, C. I'm not saying that it's formulaic or anything like that, but you don't.
Oh no, you can't consider formulaic, because at the time there was no formula for this. This was the first true horror film to really get a lot of attention. I think that one thing I think that is really scary is that at one point they were planning to do a sequel to this film. They ended up, instead of doing the sequel, they ended up reissuing it with some sound. But originally they were planning a sequel called Return of the Phantom. It would have been in sound and have been in color, but they couldn't use Chaney because he had moved studios. He was then under contract to MGM. And I'm like, the idea of a Phantom sequel is just weird.
Well, the ironic thing is they did wind up doing that with the musical.
Yeah,
they
Aspects
did.
of Love. No,
Love Never Dies.
Love Never Dies.
I think that's the name of it.
It's one of them. Yeah,
that was a sequel to Michael David. What's his name? Sorry, I lost it. Got right out of my head. Andrew Lloyd Webber. I was thinking of Michael Crawford.
Yeah.
Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Phantom of the Opera. Then they were like, oh, well, we're going to do a sequel called Love Never Dies. I'm like, why? What? Why? Just why? But because money.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, the film is like you said, this is one thing that has always been. Yeah, and you make a good point. It is a necessity and a necessary evil, but silent films are overacted to the point where they're sometimes so ridiculously so. Like Christine's fainting spells a couple of times took 2 minutes to get through before she even hit the ground.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
And she never fainted right.
No, she did.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be picky about that from now on. And that's science has ruined movies for me in that respect. Is like, you don't faint
she will
like
sit
that.
there and be watching an old crime movie or something, and she'll go, "Hey, why don't you just call CSI?" And oh, wait a minute, yeah, it's like
a little luminol would solve everything. Oh.
Didn't they have fingerprinting back then? Anyway, they do. They always overact in these, and some of them are really. And the thing is, sometimes it works.
Sometimes
There's a comedy bit that runs throughout the film with the backstage stage manager and the chorus girls who keep seeing the Phantom. The guy reminded us of Ian McKellen. We said that he had an Ian McKellen face, but he's way too short. And they were funny as hell.
They were,
and they were about the only thing that wasn't terribly exaggerated, except for when he was fainting, because he fainted every time.
Yeah. And of course, he's the one that gets kicked in the butt, because every silent movie has to have somebody getting kicked in the pants.
Right. He's the one that gets that. And then, of course, there was the storyteller backstage who ends up dead, by the way.
Crazy Ralph.
Yeah.
That's the Crazy Ralph character. You all know who I mean. The guy in the then whenever anybody shows up at like Camp Chop 'em Up, and they're like, "You're all doomed." That guy.
Doomed, I say, doomed.
Yeah, that guy, Crazy
Ralph. Or
Ralph.
unless you're Elisha Cook Jr., when you're all doomed. We're all going to die here tonight.
Yeah. So let's get smashed in House on Haunted
Then
Hill.
Vincent Price is like, oh, isn't he funny? Anyway, the other thing that I noticed is, and this started a tradition with Universal, the milquetoast lady men. What happened? I mean, you had this guy. You had the Harker in Dracula. Henry Frankenstein is kind of a milquetoast as himself, not as the inventor, but once he gets back out of the invention and into the wedding part, he turns into another one of these milquetoast characters.
Well, if you had that guy for a dad, wouldn't you be kind of browbeat?
Yeah, I suppose. A couple of the men in The Mummy are kind of milquetoasty.
Yeah.
The only one that doesn't really have a milquetoast leading man is the Wolfman. You have Lon Chaney in the title role and Claude Rains in the dad role, and they're both strong, upstanding men.
Yeah, you got Larry Talbot, whose whole thing is, what the hell is happening to me? And you've got Claude Rains.
Soon the moon will rise, and bad things are going to happen.
Well, he doesn't know that at that time. He's still like, what the hell's going on? And
that was all from the Abbott and Costello movie.
Claude Rains as his dad is all like, something's happening with you, and it's all in your head.
You've got to get yourself under control, Larry.
Werewolves,
that's all there is to it.
Werewolves don't exist, blah, blah, blah.
I have to
alert,
be honest.
It doesn't end well.
One thing I have learned over the last 15 years we've been doing this, because I was never really that much into classic films. Some of these people that appear in these older films, I would kill to work with, kill to watch, and working. And Claude Rains is one of them. I love him. He's freaking awesome in everything I've ever seen him in.
Absolutely.
And he would go on to, he actually played the Phantom right before Casablanca. So it was like something crazy.
Yeah, and we've actually seen that version as well on Svengoolie.
Yeah. You've seen that one,
yeah. This is...
And you've seen the 1980s or early 90s version with Robert Englund.
Yeah. Yes, there was
Lucky
a 90s
you.
version with Robert Englund that my friend Stacy dragged me to, because she's...
It's funny. Let's go watch. Let's go see it. Come on. It's going to be fun.
I basically sat through that whole movie like, I want to go to the musical, because I was like, this is gross. You guys know I'm more of a classic horror type. I don't need buckets of blood to get scared. And they really changed up the whole story. Not that that's a bad thing. You have to change things. You have to adapt, roll with the times, change it for the audiences, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But I was just kind of like, okay, I don't really think we need this. Don't really think we need that. Definitely don't think we needed that. But we've said this has been done. This movie has been done several times as a talkie.
They've done a rock version called Phantom of the Paradise, which we've never seen.
No, I've seen the trailer for it and been like,
Also, have to be something else, and we need to bring this up because it's definitely a part of our lives. Our friend Jen, who we lost last Christmas, was a huge fan of the Andrew Lloyd Webber show, and Michael Crawford in particular, to the point where she actually watched Condor Man over and over again, which is really scary.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen.
Well, somebody had to.
But I don't know if she ever saw The Silence or any of those, because I know she loved She absolutely adored the musical. She saw it a number of times.
And the number of people that have played the Phantom in the musical version, you know, everybody knows about Michael Crawford because he's one of the people that played it the longest and one of the best, and I know people who will fight you on that. But when you talk about people like Robert Guillaume, I mean, we've heard his version.
Robert Guillaume's version of the Phantom is phenomenally good.
And Paul Stanley.
Yeah, I can imagine him doing it too. He's got that kind of voice.
I've actually heard his version of the theme, the Phantom of the Opera.
He played it in Toronto, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like
he was,
somebody told me about it, and then they played it for me, and I'm like, because I was like, look, I love Paul Stanley, but how is this going to work? And then I heard it, and I'm like, oh, that's how it's going to work. I'm not sure where
Robert Guillaume played the role. It was either Los Angeles or New York.
I don't know, but it was amazing.
They released a single of their version of the theme, the Phantom song, and oh my God, he knocks Michael Crawford out of the water. I loved Robert Guillaume as a performer anyway, and he was terrific as a singer and never got... Most people don't realize what a great vocalist this man was.
Right.
He was known for comedy from Benson and Sports Night and Soap and
other things
things like that. And he really was a phenomenally good vocalist.
Yeah.
And his version of the Phantom just freaking blew me away. I got it sight unseen. I found it at Tower Records on the single one day, and I'm like, what's Tower Records, Mommy? I found it at Tower Records in a single, and I'm like, wow, this is just awesome.
Jumping back to this film, I've talked about this moment in this kind of thing. This is one of my film moments. This is one of those moments that if I could invent a time machine or, hotwire the TARDIS or whatever, and go back and watch the audience when the first time... I have a couple of movies where that's what I would have liked to have watched, was not the movie, but the audience.
Psycho was one.
The shower scene in Psycho is one. The first time we get a really good look at Bruce in Jaws. This film, when you have Eric's unmasking, and probably also that line in The Empire Strikes Back. Won't say it, but y'all know what I mean. I think those are probably my biggest, I would think. I mean, can you imagine...
It's not a spoiler, you can say it if you want to.
I'm not going to do it. No, they all know what it is. They're a smart bunch. They've been around long enough.
Honestly. Anyway, yeah.
But I just feel like I would have loved to have seen the faces of the crowd when that happened, when that mask came up. We're used to it because... There's
actually a scene in Hitchcock, the biopic with Anthony Hopkins, where he's standing in the lobby. He doesn't go during the premiere of Psycho, and he's standing in the lobby waiting for the reaction to the shower scene, and looking in and looking, and
he doesn't even look. He's standing there
listening.
With his back.
He can hear the screams.
He's got his back turned to the door, and you could hear people screaming their lungs out over what's happening.
He does look in a couple times before it happens.
Right.
He's looking to make sure the audience is watching, and
then
that's the kind of reaction you're going to get.
I want to look at that crowd. I want to like we've seen that they've used that in several trailers, or not trailers, but no, they are trailers, I guess, where they'll show clips from people watching like the Paranormal Activity movies and stuff, and you see people in the theaters and they look all weird.
React videos.
React videos, and they have like the night vision look to them and stuff like that, and people are like jumping 8 feet in the air, and
they do use them in the trailers for those too.
And like people that are like the size of like you see guys that look like football linebackers, and they're like, hold me, to their girlfriends and stuff like that, because it's just when you have that moment of raw emotion, when you capture that, it's an amazing thing. And I can't and I don't know how much of this was hype or not when it comes to the studios and stuff, but Chaney's makeup and the reveal of the Phantom's face was so frightening. They were telling people to keep smelling salts available because they were worried that women were going to faint.
They probably really were back then. It's not like the
it's not
castle.
Like all the
it's not like the castle stuff.
The schlocky castle stuff. No offense to Mr. Castle's memory, but you know what I mean.
Castle was a showman and a half, yeah.
But my whole thing is you were worried women were going to faint? Just women. Really?
All right.
That's interesting.
Call going out right now Ned, we want to see the original Phantom on the big screen at the Brattle sometime in 22 would be nice,
Well,
because
when
we
it's
won't be
safe.
going back to the theater until at least January.
Yeah.
And we would like to see this movie on the big screen in a restored version so we can get rid of all the schmooge that we missed here.
Yeah.
Because I can't even imagine what this movie would be like with an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Or to the people at the Coolidge, you want to bring in those guys that did that original score for Metropolis and do
Yeah.
this film. That would be awesome.
It would. It would be really
Because
amazing.
this is actually 100 minutes.
Yeah, something
It's
like that,
longer
yeah.
than you would think it would be. And it doesn't even, it goes by so fast. You
goes
don't
by,
even
but
notice
you really
it.
do. You grind it. Well, there was one thing that you disliked very much, and that was the ending.
The ending, I was pissed because there was just kind of like, I wanted some resolution to a couple of other things that they didn't give us, which I thought
What the
was.
hell did you want? A big gunfight?
Well, I don't want to. No, but I mean, like here, what there was that's listed on Wikipedia that
Mm-hmm. Right.
was not in the print that we saw.
Right.
I would have been satisfied with that.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
just something to show what happened.
All right. Well, that's
So but other than that, no, the film, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and once you get past the over gesturing and the over
when you look at
facial
the
stuff.
scope of those
The
sets.
sets
of it,
were
oh my
incredible
gosh.
for 1925.
Oh, it blows your
I've
mind.
seen some stuff online about all the huge sets that were made for some of the silent
Mm-hmm.
films, like D.W. Griffith has a film called Intolerance that has this
Right.
monster set. And the Paris Opera House, they said they didn't really know what the makeup was. It was mostly out of their imagination. But I'll tell you, wow,
Yeah.
that is one hell of a set they were working
And
on.
the cardio these people had to have must have been ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a lot of running up and down stairs, upstairs particularly.
Running upstairs,
It's like
running
it's
upstairs,
like it's like the Maroon and Hannah on the stairs video. It's like up
Oh, it
and
was
down,
making me
up and down,
breathless.
up and down.
I was like, I can't take this anymore. Oh, my heart is so. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And you know that running in shoes like women had to wear back then. I'm like surprised no one slipped and broke their neck.
All right, that's Phantom of
that's
the
enough.
Opera
The curtains come down.
from 1925, and we urge you to check it out. Like I said, there is a version on Amazon. It does get a little murky for about 4 minutes in the early part, but it's worth it. It's only
Yeah.
$2. It's worth it, and if you've never seen it, definitely want to check it out. We will continue our Silent Screams series on the next show. Not sure which film we're going to do yet. We got like 6 of them we're trying to choose. We got to whittle down to 3 more. We do know we are saving the biggie for Halloween itself. We will be doing Nosferatu on Halloween. Other than that, we've got some other stuff, of course, going on as we always do. 3-Minute Weekend every Friday morning, usually, and Tuesday Digidex returns this week for the first time in 8 months. We are finally back up to where there's decent stuff coming out on Tuesdays for home video, and we will be back with that this week. And it's usually up in the morning as well. Kim will be back this week with Ring Around the Rosie, even if she doesn't know it yet, because I'm tired of her not doing all these great wrestling
All
shows
right.
we're
Yes,
watching.
I will be. I will be.
Because
Yep.
the reactions you're going to have online will be fun as hell to listen to. They always are. You also are going to try and do a couple of your Platinum Rose roleplay
Yes.
for Halloween, in time for Halloween. So
I hope to, yeah.
because there's going to be some good stuff. You got
Yeah.
plenty of stuff. And of course, we are continuing to evolve over the next couple of months. I've still got to finish the office, but when we do, we're going to be doing a few other things going on. I've got some stuff connected to the Kirkham Report, my music site. Kim's going to be doing other stuff with me, which we're going to experiment with some live streams. So we want you to be there for that. And all of that will be coming before the end of the year. So just keep an eye out on eCinemaOne.com or check out the KirkhamReport.com for music, and I will have it there. And, of course, it is that time of year again. So the Kirkham Report is about to ramp up its Junior Eurovision coverage. Junior Eurovision happens in early December, mid-December, actually. It's later than it's ever been. And there will be 19 countries participating. The songs will start hitting in the next few weeks, and 3 of them are already out. And I will be covering that. And, of course, right now, technically, after October 1st, it's now 22 Eurovision season because they can start coming out anytime. So I've got a lot of Eurovision stuff. If you're wondering what the hell Eurovision is, go to nbc.com/peacock and look up Eurovision Song Contest. You can watch the 2021 contest there. It was really a lot of fun. And they
Yes,
have
it
both
was.
both semis and the finals for the first year. And they'll be back in 2022, along with the premiere of the American Song Contest, the officially licensed Eurovision spinoff for the U.S. So we'll be covering that extensively too.
Yep.
Do we have anything else Halloween-y wise that we're going to be talking about this month?
Not that I know of.
I know one other thing, and it's only because we actually do get to see it.
Yeah.
We will have a review when it hits of Halloween Kills.
Yes, we will.
Which is live streaming day and date on Peacock, so we will be able to catch it. We still haven't caught Suicide Squad and a couple of the other ones, which we haven't gotten around to from the summer, but they'll be fun.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I think you know that it's probably we should probably get going as time goes on. Here, where's the right button? Here we go.
Still getting used to the new tech.
I'm still getting used to the new boards and stuff. But we have a lot of fun every week, and we hope you'll join us now that we're back on our weekly schedule. One day late this week. We'll be back on Sunday next week. Anything else?
If you want to reach out to me, platinumroselle@yahoo.com.
And you can find me at eCinemaOne and TKR Online on Twitter also. And our address, subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com. Please write to us and let us know what you'd like to see and what you'd like to listen to.
Yep.
For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
Happy screaming, people.
Bye.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema is copyright 2021 from PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, we'll see you at the movies.
15 years, blowing the doors off the competition, podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.